guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello, welcome. My name is Delancey, and today I am going to be talking about all the books I read for the month of August. In August, I read a total of 4 books, which I am personally very proud of. It was kind of a crazy month, getting ready to go back to school, and finally getting year 3 of all of my studies going, so definitely a successful reading month for me. So the first book I read in the month of August was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is a young adult sci-fi novel. It is the story of Spensa Nightshade, and for decades, her and her people on this deserted planet have been attacked by these alien enemy forces from above. I believe Spensa is the 3rd generation that this human civilization has been stranded on this planet. Spensa has dreams of becoming a pilot, which is essentially the only defense system that this human race has against these alien forces. Spensa's father was also a pilot, so she dreams of being like her dad and winning fame and glory. But it is because of her dad that she may not be able to live out her dreams. Her dad was shot down in combat for being a coward, and ever since then there has been a lot of dirt on Spensa's name, and so her chances of getting into flight school are slim to none. But early on in the novel, Spensa makes this interesting discovery in a nearby cavern which may help her finally quote-unquote claim the stars. So picking up this book was very just on a whim, kind of random. I never read sci-fi. I'm not a fan of sci-fi. And I've never read one of Brandon Sanderson's books, mostly because I've always been very intimidated by his writing, and I felt like I needed to be in the right mood to read his giant fantasy tomes. The timing just was never right to pick up one of his books. But I was browsing the library one day and felt like checking a new book out, and I saw it on the shelf and I kind of just went for it, and I'm really glad I did. I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I can't decide now whether I am a fan of sci-fi or if Brandon Sanderson is just that wonderful that he can take a genre that I am usually not a fan of and make it into something really wonderful and well loved. The writing was wonderful, very witty, very clever. I loved a multitude of the characters. It's at times a very serious story, but there are a lot of really comical moments. I love characters like Mbot and Doomslug and Cobb, who is Spensa's mentor. And I really enjoyed Spensa as the main character, the female protagonist that isn't this vanilla Jane Doe that has no character or background to her. In fact, she felt very realistic, and I feel like if I actually met Spensa in real life, I wouldn't want to be friends with her. She's a little much, and she's not really like my type of a friend, but I still really cared about her, and I was always rooting for her throughout the story, which is just testament to how wonderful of a writer Brandon Sanderson is. I also liked that there was not a clear main stage romance to this novel. That is not what it's about at all. Instead, we have these wonderful stories about friendship, Spensa learning to care about her flight mates and having individual, very unique relationships with each one of them. What starts out as a pretty fun and harmless sci-fi eventually becomes what I felt like in the last 150 pages to be a very eerie kind of atmosphere. I mean, granted, I read the last 150 pages of this book late in the middle of the night, but the setting just became so much more doom and gloom and eerie, and it would just suck you in. I really loved it. There was a funeral scene in the novel that just was so vivid, and really I haven't been so rattled by a fictional character's death before, and that book really did this for me. There are some crazy twists, and the ending I totally did not see coming, so I definitely would recommend this to anyone, even if you hate sci-fi, even if you're scared to pick up a Brandon Sanderson novel, just go for it. It's a young adult novel, so if you are someone who's new to Brandon Sanderson, like myself, I would definitely recommend starting with this one because it is young adult, and it will get you acquainted with his writing and his world building and how he creates stories. And then once you feel confident with these kinds of books, I think what I'm personally going to do is hopefully soon I'm going to move on to all of the fantasy tomes and everything in his Cosmere series. So after finishing Skyward, I wanted to move on to something completely different, like a light, fun contemporary, and my Hold of the Bride Test by Helen Huang finally was available at the library, so I picked that up. The Bride Test is the 2nd book of her series. I'm not sure if this series has a name, but it is the 2nd book after the Kiss Quotient. I think technically you could read the Bride Test as a standalone, but I would recommend you read the Kiss Quotient first because a lot of the characters that are in the Kiss Quotient come back in the Bride Test and vice versa. So I think you will enjoy the book much more if you read the Kiss Quotient first. So this is the story of Kai Diep. He is a successful, handsome, very smart accountant, and he's also autistic, and he lives with Asperger's. Now, Kai has been very happy living his very quiet bachelor life. He has no desire for any form of an intimate romantic relationship, but his mom is very fed up and frustrated and wants him to just get married and have kids and start a family already. Kai goes on a few blind dates, but they of course never work out, so his mom sets him up with a quote-unquote mail order bride from Vietnam. And so Esmeralda, this mail order bride, comes over from Vietnam for the summer. His mom pairs them up in the hopes that they will fall in love and marry by the end of the summer so that Esmeralda can move in with Kai and live with him in the United States. Of course, Kai is totally against this, and there's a lot of pushback. Kai believes that he's incapable of expressing love, but you know, it's a romance, so eventually they fall in love. I got really lucky and I loved this book as well. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was very enjoyable, and I personally loved this more than The Kiss Quotient. The Kiss Quotient was great, but I found that the relationship in the bride test between Kai and Esmeralda was much more realistic. In The Kiss Quotient, I feel like the love was very insta-love, very insta-lust, and there was just really no progression to it. I felt like the entire plot of The Kiss Quotient was driven by miscommunication between the characters. Personally, as a trope I don't really like, even though overall I did really enjoy the book. But in the bride test, it's clear from the beginning that they're kind of a mismatched pair, and there's a lot of pushback from Kai to get to know Esmeralda, but over time their relationship grows, and they have issues and problems and obstacles that just felt really realistic to me, that I feel like a real couple would have. An element I really enjoyed in the bride test was how much Esmeralda was inspired by Helen Huang's own mom. And her mom was an immigrant coming to the United States and really hustled and created her own restaurant chain. It talks a lot about her mom in the author's notes and all of the different parallels between her and Esmeralda, and I just thought that was a very cool element to the story. It definitely, I think that's what made the story so realistic to me personally, was Esmeralda felt like a real person. So overall, a really great, cute read. If you are into adult romance, then I would definitely suggest you pick it up. So after the bride test, I then moved on to Insta Style by Tessa Barton. This is a nonfiction book that is all about Instagram. It covers everything from the basics to design tips for laying out your grid, interacting with other users on the app, as well as building a business, how you deal with sponsorships, so on and so forth. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It is a really great resource, and I did learn a lot of really great nuggets of information about how to really optimize my time on Instagram. There are some sections of it, especially the basics section, that is very repetitive. I feel like if you've been on Instagram for even just a couple of months, you already know a lot of the things she talks about. And then on top of that, Tessa Barton is a lifestyle and a fashion Instagrammer, so a lot of her content is going to be aimed at people who, blog about fashion or lifestyle. So there are a few things that I just really couldn't relate to, but overall, like I said, there is some really great information. A really cool feature that I liked is that she featured some of her Instagram friends from different branches of Instagram. So she has somebody who does only flat lays, and they have a flat lay Instagram account, and she had 2 pages dedicated just to her, and this user was giving tips on how to really up your flat lay game. She had someone who is a fitness influencer talk a little bit about the ins and outs, her recommendations, do's and don'ts. There was someone for beauty, someone for travel, and then also someone for interior design. So like I said, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's definitely worth a read if you are looking to learn more about online marketing. And then finally, the last book I read for the month of August was Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I have the physical copy now because my boyfriend was very sweet and went and bought me the physical copy, but I actually listened to this on audiobook, and I loved this book. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. After I had finished the bride test, I was in like a nonfiction mood. I think because I was getting ready to go back to school and I wanted to do a little bit of like self-help for some reason. So I was in that mood, so I decided to look through the Libby app in their nonfiction books, what was just available in the moment, and this was. I would just hear like all the different memes about like what sparks joy. I understand why some people would not give this a 5 out of 5 stars. A lot of people felt like it was just full of flowery language, that there wasn't a lot of practical advice in it. And granted, there are some tips that Marie Kondo gives that I don't think I will be incorporating into my own life, such as, you know, like never wearing sweatpants at home. You know, when you're in the shower, taking the shampoo and conditioner out of the shower and drying it off every time and putting it away and never leaving anything in the shower. I'm probably gonna leave my shampoo and conditioner still in the shower. But overall, I really liked her philosophy about just cleaning out your space and really only keeping the things around you that bring joy in your life, and that life is too short to be surrounded by clutter. And when you declutter your space, you will end up feeling a lot more free and creatively open and more in tune with yourself. And I just personally have definitely experienced that before. It's always such wonderful therapy for me if I'm in a bad mood to go and clean my room or clean out my car or clean out my dorm room, whatever it may be. And I always felt so much more productive and in tune with myself when I took the time to clean up and take care of my space. I still follow that philosophy today. I'm not someone who has a lot of clutter in my room, as you can see. I really want to take it to the next level, and just everything she talked about really just made sense to me. If you are someone who's looking to just try something different in their life, if you feel like you are living in a cluttered space, or you feel like you're kind of just in a rut, I don't know, I would recommend picking this up. It's a very small, short book, and the audiobook is only 4 hours, so I finished it like in a week, not even, just driving to and from school. So it's very easy to get through, and yeah, you take everything with a grain of salt, and like some things you won't adopt, but just find 1 or 2 things that you will. 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. Also, it is kind of like a self-help book, but packaged in a different way. It's a book about organization and tidying, but it's also like life advice. So it's kind of sneaky that way, which I liked about it. So I would recommend. Okay, you guys, that is gonna do it for all the books I read in the month of August. Comment down below how many books you read this month, if you've read any of the books that I have mentioned here today. I am very excited for September. I've already started a new audiobook and have started The Diviners. That is a huge book, so hopefully I can get through that. I'm also doing a giant group / buddy read with a few of my booktuber friends. We will be reading A Very Large Expanse of Sea, so I'm excited to share my thoughts on that as well. Should be a good reading month, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!